Good Friday Easter. You know the story of Good Friday. A man is in a garden, it's nighttime, and one called Judas comes in search of him, seemingly to betray him. He comes into the garden and it's dark, so he asks a simple question: Where is Jesus? Then the voice in the dark answered, I am he. We are told in the story they all fell to the ground. When they regained their composure, they asked the same question: Where is Jesus? Again the voice answered, I have told you that I am he. This time Judas kisses him, and the voice said to him, Now that you have found me, let all else go, but do not let me go. And what you have to do, do quickly. Then Judas goes out and commits suicide, which we will discuss more of the 12 apostles and their symbolism in many lectures to come. But specifically, I want to do a whole stream just about Neville's interpretation of the symbolism of the apostles, because they're all aspects of mind that you're meant to discipline in order to become a master of imagination. All right, continuing. Now, when you read the story, you might think that that drama took place in a garden. No, that drama must take place in the mind of man, for this is all about rebirth. It takes a man, a normal man, a man of sense, but hidden in that man and bound hand and foot is the second man that rebirth loosens and lifts up, and that second man is God. So the mystery is all self, and he uses the word mystery no less than 18 times. He asked those in the Corinthians to esteem him as a steward of mystery. Then he said, Great is the mystery, God was manifest in the flesh. Then he spoke of the greatest of all mysteries, the one hidden from the foundation of the world. Christ in you is the hope of glory. Christ in man, not Christ in the pages of history, but God in man must be awakened. And this is the technique by which he is awakened. Now come closely with me and let me take you into the garden of your own mind. Right now, just imagine you're in a sick room of some wonderful hospital, a ward. You see the case history. You heard the verdict of the doctor, and the man seemingly is dying. What would save that man from such a verdict? What would save him? A state of health, by which he would rise from that bed and become a normal, healthy person in this world. That would save him. Now, look into your mind's eye and define carefully the solution of a particular problem. When you define the solution to the problem, do you know what you are actually seeing? You are seeing Jesus, for Jesus means to save. So the state that would save the man from what he is the state of health. That is his Savior. So guys, when you're imagining for other people, that is that's awakening the spirit of Christ in you. You know, Christ is not buried someplace in the Middle East thousands of years ago. He's buried in your own skull. And you wake Christ up, you resurrect that spirit of Christ in you by consciously imagining, not just for yourself, but for everybody in your world, because of course there are no others. And last time you shared, you had manifested for, I think it was your neighbors who needed a lot of repairs on their house, right?
Yes, my elderly neighbor.
So the thing I wanted to know there was, because I remember the fun part of it was like, it was you didn't realize for months until after you had the manifestation that you had actually had the manifestation, right?
Yes.
So do you remember what you originally did when it came to your imaginal act, and how conscious were you when you did it?
So at the very beginning, Neville really encourages you to just manifest as much as possible. And so for me, I started just making these long lists of things I wanted, and oh my goodness, everything came to fruition. And because I was imagining so much, um, I just remember hearing that she was in need. And so I immediately revised it, as I now do so much. And she, specifically her daughter, had told me that they needed a new roof, they needed a lot of repairs, and they couldn't afford them. And unfortunately, at the time, I couldn't really afford to help them. And they needed thousands of dollars to really get all of these repairs done. And so I just, I'd been to their home, oh, I've lost probably thousands of times over the years. And I imagined walking into their home and seeing the repairs made. I didn't imagine there being present there, but I imagined walking through the home and just visually taking notice that so many repairs had been made throughout their home and just being amazed at all of this. And at the time, it was one of many, 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 many things I was visualizing, including, um, I mentioned this, I was visualizing trying to move to the beach that summer, which I ended up doing and didn't have to pay for it. Work paid for it, which is great. And, but I visualized that. And it was just one of many things that I visualized, and I wrote it down, and I forgot about it. And it wasn't until after I'd left the area and I was living at the beach and swimming at the ocean, and I was mentally going through all the things that I should be manifesting for other people. And I remembered, yes, that's right, that came up. But in that moment, I remembered it was something so simple. I mean, it doesn't take much to impress your subconscious mind, which is why there's so many different ways to impress your subconscious mind. And I always encourage people to play with it and find out what works for you. And I've had, friends along the years tell me, well, I can't really imagine anything. I can't visualize. And I said, well, visualizing works for me. You have to figure out what works for you, because I've also scripted and things have manifested into existence. I have recorded my voice and then fallen asleep with that recording looping as I sleep at night. I've meditated where all I'm doing is mental diet. I am so happy and grateful that, I got white roses. And whether it's mental diet, whether it's scripting, whether it's visualizing, just play around with it and figure out what works for you. It's very easy to impress your subconscious mind. And for so many of my manifestations, including the ones I talked about earlier in a broadcast, I only visualized it once. That was it. Um, it wasn't something that I repeated a bunch of times.
So you already answered my next question, which is how many times you visualize it. But I did have another little sub question there. So how vivid was it, and how well? There's a lot of things going on here. Like, how much in the moment of visualization did you let go of the exterior world and the current circumstances? How convinced were you in the moment of visualization that this was indeed true? So, like, how much did you abandon the current reality? How deeply did you feel that this was true? And what was the first question I asked? Oh my god. How vivid was the visualization?
So, for me, I've always been fortunate enough to be able to have very vivid visualization, where, there are moments, especially when I was visualizing moving to the beach, and I remember taking a bath, and for a moment, I could feel like I was swimming in the ocean, and it was like I was both there and in the bathtub all at the same time. And there are other moments where it's just something I see very quickly in my mind and I just let it go. Um, then there are other times where maybe it's something that is really important to me. And I really dig in deep and think about the details and the smell and the feeling. But in all really successful manifestations, there was always a center of joy at the core of it. Like I felt happy or excited or eager over this manifestation. And there were times where I didn't visualize at all, and I just wrote it down. And it was it just incredible how it just manifested into existence. Um, and it wasn't a great deal of effort or work. It was more of being in a situation where I was excited and eager, or just genuinely peaceful about the manifestation. I think, you know, my first new car, at the time, I was really nervous and I didn't really know exactly what I wanted. And I just remember really visualizing and taking the time of feeling that steering wheel and feeling, I wanted leather seats. And I was just like, oh, I can feel these leather seats. These seats feel amazing. And just taking the time to think, like, wow, this is just such an incredible moment in my life. And all of that, it just worked out perfectly. I went to the car dealership and everything just worked out great. And I bought that car. And it was a really exciting moment in my life. And so, I mean, it depends on you on how much you want to put into that visualization moment, um, into that manifestation, but it doesn't take much to impress your subconscious mind. Um, and there are lots of people who don't visualize at all. They just like to script, or they just practice mental diet. And I think more than anything, you just have to practice what feels good, what brings you joy in your heart. And like, oh, this is such a great feeling while I'm imagining this. So if you want something specific, you can specify that, just like I specified that I wanted to run into Diane. I think I didn't want to run into anybody else. I didn't want to, because it's been such a long time since we'd gone on a trip, and going on trips with her was so much fun. And so I just thought to myself, man, it would just be so great to see her and her dog, specifically because I don't have a dog and I really love dogs. So that was something that I visualized, just seeing her in front of me. And so, you can absolutely do one of those things where you go into the details, but it's up to you. But it doesn't take much. It really doesn't. I think with manifesting her this week, I probably thought about that maybe 30 seconds while I was looking through social media, and that thought like really went into my mind, and I felt really happy, and I was like, I don't know what it's going to be, but we're going to get together and it's going to be amazing. And it all just perfectly came together. So yeah, I mean, 30 seconds. I've also had moments where I've really taken, a lot of time and meditated for an hour. But they both manifested equally. And sometimes the one that I spent less time on, like 30 seconds thinking of Diane, manifested faster. So it goes to show you that it's really not a length of time that you have to put in regarding I have to script every single day for so many hours, or think about this every single day for so many hours. And to be honest with you, my best friend did that for, oh goodness, he did it for like 2 years. And I was like, you need to stop. Like, you're putting in too much time into it. You have to like let go a little bit, enjoy, feel that it's already been done, be happy, go do something else, and let this come naturally. And so, because he was spending a lot of time meditating, visualizing every morning, at lunch, before going to sleep. And so it felt like he was holding on to it too tightly. And so now he's definitely let go quite a bit. And for me, I love to manifest and meditate and visualize different things. And that keeps life interesting. You're not always focused on the one thing. Life is to be abundant in many ways and in different arenas. And so, yeah, so that's really my practice. But I don't put in a great deal of effort anymore in putting hours into visualizing one specific manifestation.
Yeah, so you already answered my next question. Because I was going to talk about, so in Neville's explanation of Easter, You
Mm-hmm.
have you have Good Friday, which is the crucifixion, which is obviously the imaginal act. Crucifying yourself in this new state, and of course Easter itself is the manifestation, is the resurrection of this thing in your world. But on the Holy Saturday, well, what is that? Well, that's the period where the Father's doing the work for you.
Mm-hmm.
The state has been crucified, the body's been taken away, meaning you don't have to worry about it anymore. It should be, for the most part, out of your consciousness. However, this can be a pretty painful time for people, even if they have successfully captured the state, because the desire is so great. And so sometimes, even though you capture the state in the moment, the desire returns throughout the day. But you already explained, some of what people can do during that time, during that Saturday, and really in the bigger way, most of your life is that Saturday, because it's only, there's two aspects of this Christ metaphor. There are individual manifestations, but then there's the larger pattern of you totally awakening as Christ, and that comes after the promise. So, for the most part, most of your life is just one long Saturday of waiting for that to unfold within you.